basically, I just wanted to, 2 years ago, I presented at Orlando at this conference, and I talked about two school districts I'd worked with, Scott County School District for about 7 years, and then the Woodford County School Districts I'd just worked with for a couple of years. This year I'm going to add a district. I work with about 6 or 7 now, but I'm going to add another district I've been working with for about 3 years and show you how it works in 3 different school districts. So basically what all the other speakers have been talking about today, this is going to be a case study of 3 different school districts and what has been accomplished by doing the things that they've been talking about, actually. And so I'm going to go through this. There's the agenda. A little bit about Kentucky. Kentucky legislature passed a law in 2008 that schools will focus on energy. And the reason being, we were spending a lot of money in the schools for energy. And there's kind of the graph. You see the thing was really going through the roof. And since we started the energy management program with the law, we're saving $123 million or so. This is the map of Kentucky, and the green are the districts that are involved with the Kentucky School Board Association School Energy Manager Project. And I work with the ones in central Kentucky there. Let's see if I can get this little thing going here. Let me see. There it is. Right around in the central Kentucky, around Lexington area. Scott County is where I live, and that's the home of Toyota. Scott County is the fastest growing county in the state, and our school districts are exploding. So we're constantly building and trying to keep up with the students. Here's a kind of a chart talking about the 3 districts I'm going to talk about. There's 173 school districts in the state of Kentucky. The average, you can see in the left column there, Scott County District, which is the largest I work with, you can see the number of schools and how much we spend for energy. The Woodford County School Districts I've been working with for about 5 years, and then Bourbon County I've been working with for about 3 years. So those are the 3 districts I'm going to talk about. The school culture is quite different than a lot of companies. Like you said, I work in industry for 20-some years, and it's quite different. In the school, you really don't have, you have a completely different focus, okay? It's education test scores, you talked about it. That's what really motivates teachers and administrators, the test scores. They could care squat about energy, okay? They don't pay the energy bill. The only one that's really focused on energy is primarily the CFO, the finance director, okay? And so it's really hard to get the attention of some of the administrators and so forth. But what you can do, and I got a chart later that talks about some of the keys, is to really focus to the Board of Education. Because the Board of Education are really the administration. They're the ones that manage the whole school. And they're the people that are accountable to the taxpayers who has to pay the energy bill. So if you can get the school board's attention, and they in turn can get the superintendent on board and the administrators, and it filters down. But I say the big thing about the schools, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, is to get the students engaged. You've got a really captive audience of it depends on, in Scott County, got 9,000 students, and some districts got 4, 3, whatever. But if you can get the students engaged in the program and let them be your helpers, it's amazing what can happen. You don't have to spend any money. You just have to turn them loose and let them be the energy police. And it's amazing how they can make things happen. Basically, let's just continue about the culture. It's really difficult to get money in any school system because we're always short of cash. They never have enough money for schools. And you're talking about during the recession, a lot of school districts were laying off teachers. In Scott County, thank goodness we saved enough money so we didn't have to lay off teachers. But many school districts in Kentucky were laying off teachers, and basically the classes were getting large. I'm talking about 30 or more students per classroom. So it really is a problem. The other thing is in technology, most of the people in the school districts are not highly technically. You got basically maintenance people that really don't know how to manage the systems, and so they're always constantly trying to keep up with what's going on. Especially the newer systems, it's amazing. Sometimes the older buildings are much more efficient than the new buildings because they know how to manage them. They're simple. But you get the new buildings that are really sophisticated and really advanced, they don't know how to manage them. They might work a little bit okay for a year or 2 or 3, but once they start failing, bye-bye, it's gone. Here's some data from 2010 when we kind of started the program to 2016. You can see how Kentucky is fared. The chart there as far as number of Energy Star schools in 2010, we had 12 in 2008, and as of July, at the end of 2016, we had 374 Energy Star schools, and then in July we had 393, and as of this week we had 398, so we've already picked up a few more. This is a chart, and this again has been updated this week. Is anybody here from Hawaii or Utah? Probably not. Well, I just found out these two have changed. They've switched. Utah is really doing a great program out there, and they're number one as far as the percentage of schools. Now, California has the most Energy Star schools. They're the biggest state, and they got more schools. Texas is number two. But what this is the number of Energy Star schools as a percentage of total schools. So we're proud of Kentucky being number 3. We're number 6 as far as total schools. We're not a real big state. So we've got the number 6 largest schools. So we're really proud of that. A little bit about Scott County School District. We're located in central Kentucky. You can see the information there. I won't bore you with that. I've got a lot of charts, so I'm going to go through these really quick. The management system, we basically talked about getting started after the law was passed in state. We got funding from the program after we started the program. Let me just divert a little bit and talk about how we got funded. I'd worked in the industry, as he said, for IB and Lexmark for years and retired and was looking for something to do. I actually got elected. Our legislative body in our county was a magistrate for 8 years, and after I quit doing that, I was looking for something to do because I was getting bored. So I started working with the school system, half-time, just assistant director of maintenance, just a little job to keep me busy. Well, along came this 2008 when they started this law, and I really got involved with that, and it just so happens it was a passion of mine because I was raised and my parents taught me to turn off the lights and do all the things to save energy. That's the way I was brought up. And I could see my grandkids and stuff weren't doing that. That we haven't been teaching that to our children, So I just had a passion to really spread that through the thing. So I really got excited about that and started working. So I soon became doing that I was getting paid half-time, but I was working full-time because I was doing this energy thing on the side. Well, one of the guys that we had that recruited on our school district energy team was a former executive of a utility company. Really great guy, and he did a utility study. We saved over $100,000 on rates. He talked about getting on the right rates and found out obviously the school district was on the wrong rates, and we got over $100,000 in rebates or refunds. I'm sorry, but anyway, he went forward and got money from the government, $5 million, to start an energy management program throughout the whole state, and basically hired about 40-some engineers and energy people across the state to work with different districts. And our board at the time was going through a recession, didn't have any money, getting ready to lay off teachers, and they brought it to a vote, and it failed. It failed 3-2, and they were getting 75% of the cost of half of an energy manager for the first year and 50% the second year, and they voted it down 3-2. I mean, it's amazing. They did. So at that point, I said, well, okay, I'm going to find a job. There was all these jobs around the area. So I interviewed for all the jobs. I had all these offers, and I was getting ready to leave, and my boss said, I can't lose you. You're too important. So he went to the board members, 5 of them, individually said, you can't, so next board meeting, very next month, they passed the thing 5-0, So I stayed, and I'm glad I did because I really loved working with but ever since then, for the 2 years we had funding, it was fine. Then the third year we didn't have any funding. That's real important because they continued the program without any funding. It was self-funding because I could demonstrate we saved way more money than the position cost. And then the same guy that I was telling you went and actually got utility funding from the various utilities in the state, and we've been doing the funding from 2014 through 2017. It's continuing through 2018. We're on it all the way into 2018 school year. So basically, the board is completely supportive now. The superintendent, we've gone through 3 superintendents. They're all supporting. Not a real problem. So successes we've had, we've been Energy Star Partner of the Year 3 different years. We were the largest district, was 100% of our schools being Energy Star. We went from number 25 out of 173 districts as far as energy utilization index to number 4, and we've got over $4.5 million cumulative savings in that time frame. And this is kind of a chart that was our savings. This is like 2 or 3 months ago when I had turned in a presentation, but it keeps growing, and hopefully we're going to be over $5 million fairly quickly. And there's a graph that shows how it's bubbled through. This is a chart that we do monthly, and Toyota is in our district, as I told you, and Toyota is really big in energy, and they won Energy Star Partner of the Year for years. And we had one of their energy people on our committee, and they come up with this graph, and we start using it. It's kind of a quick graph because you can look at it real quick, and if it's red, it's bad. If it's green, it's good. They don't have to spend much time. The principals look at that, and of course they don't want to be read. So it motivates them because they don't want to be the worst guy, or And what this is doing is comparing themselves to prior year. So they're comparing to each other, but then they're also comparing to how they rank with their peers, the other schools. And no principal wants to be last. Okay, so it's a little bit of motivation there. And then this is the chart that I tell the principals, I tell the superintendent, I mainly tell the school board. I educate the school board on what this means. So the reason I like Energy Star, and that's why I titled my presentation using Energy Star to help school districts manage energy, is Energy Star is easy to understand. It's easy to explain. You can explain to a kindergarten kid, and I do that all the time. I go talk to the kindergarten kids, first graders, second graders. They understand 1 to 100. They might not understand EUI, KBTUs per square foot. They don't know. I mean, even high schoolers, you try to explain it to the high school kids. Some of them know it, science people. Most of the high schoolers don't understand it. But Energy Star score, they understand. If you're 100, you're good. If you're 75, above 75, you're Energy Star. If you're below 75, you need to improve to get above 75. So it's a real quick and easy measurement that's really easy to explain, easy to understand, and it's a motivator. Because if you're not 75, you're not Energy Star, okay? And the motivation was to get everybody Energy Star. So you can see on the column called June of 2010, that was our base point. We didn't have we had a few Energy Star schools, but not a whole lot, but we had a lot that weren't, okay? But then the other thing is I also like to track the EUI, even though they might not understand what it all means. I mean, what I tell them is the lower the better in the EUI, the higher the better in the rating. I mean, that's what they have to remember. And then we have these pretty graphs, where they can look at it real quick. Some people don't like to look numbers. They like to look graphs, okay? So the graph is pretty quick. Same thing with EUI, it goes down. But you can see every school is improved. I mean, there's not any that hasn't improved. Now, I'll be honest with you. Some of them were more difficult than others, okay? And I'll tell you some of the secrets a little later, but I mean, it's not all easy, okay? All right, so Woodford County, the second district, and I went to work for them on my own time. I volunteered for this duty just because I want to see if this would work in another school district, completely different school district, where I told you Scott County was the fastest growing district or county in the state. Woodford County is right adjacent, but it's just opposite. They don't grow at all. They've got all kinds of restrictions. They've had about the same number of students since 1975, so they're pretty stagnant. And so it's completely different. And it's a smaller district. They only have about 4,000 students. But I want to see if the same thing would apply to Woodford County as it did to Scott County. So basically, you can see some of the things that they've done. Now they have got all their schools Energy Star. And they've done some great things. They're over $1 million in savings. And you can see their graph there. I just want to show you that chart. Woodford County Middle School was 74 at that point in time. But the interesting thing is they have made a big program to get Chromebooks for their students, and now they're up in the 80s because the Chromebooks now count on Energy Star, and it really helps the rating. So, and they've improved too. The students have gotten more engaged. It's harder to get students in middle school engaged. I tell you, the elementary schools are the easiest. High schools are the next, but the middle schoolers are the worst kids to get engaged. They think they know everything, okay? And you can't, it's hard to appeal to them because they're not close enough to understand about savings or money. High schoolers are getting close to being out. You say, look, if you're not going to college, you're going to be out on your own. You're going to have to pay your own utility bills. You better learn how to save because it's going to be a big expense if you're starting paying your utility. So you can appeal to high school students. Elementary students are so eager to learn. I mean, they're so easy. Kindergartens are the best ones. I mean, they are so easy to talk to because they are so gullible. They just want to learn. They really are. All right, so there's Woodford County. You see how they've done? I mean, every school is improved. Every school. And there's the same thing on the EUI. Okay, Bourbon County is another school district. It's adjacent to Scott County as well. It's a little bit different. It's horse farm country. They're not a real fast growing. They grow a little bit better than Woodford County, but they're not really fast growing either. But they got a little smaller, less than 3,000 students. When I started working with them, they didn't have any schools that were Energy Star. The thing here is the superintendent was really supportive. We had a brand new superintendent. She was really supportive. Got to meet with the school board, and I found out they were supportive. So basically, they've got almost they've got over $500,000 now. That was 3 months ago. And there's their chart. there's June, and then I put July in there because July is starting to get much better. It's all green. That's the first month in the school year. But they are really doing great. And they have now got all their schools Energy Star except one. And it's pretty amazing. And the one that's not, believe me, they're already at 72. They've improved from 71 to 72, and they're going to be 75 within, I think, by the end of this calendar year. I think by the end of December they'll get there because they're really engaged and they're saving every week. You talked about the interval meters. All of these 3 districts, we have smart meters on all the schools, and we can get energy data. I send out reports every week, and they really love it because now they can see what they're doing every week. The other districts I work with do not have interval meters yet, and it's not. We do monthly reports, but not the weekly reports. And here is the other chart there. Okay, this is a chart I want to spend a little bit of time on. I think I'm okay with time. This is a really important chart in my opinion because it's really key. It's what I have found working with multiple school districts is the key success factors for managing energy in a school system. Now, some of these would apply to any business, okay, but specifically schools. First, you've got to get support from the top. You've got to get the school board and the superintendent on board. If you don't have that, you're just wasting your time. You've got to have that. That's just so important. And then you've got to get buy-in from the principals because they are the building leaders. Each school's got a principal, and they control that school, okay? And I'll go back and tell you a little bit about Scott County. The school that I had the worst problem with getting on board is unfortunately the school that my grandkids went to, okay? And my daughter teaches there. It's even worse. And I had a principal that just didn't understand. Well, she understood, she just didn't care. She didn't pay the electric bill. She was only focused on grades, so I could not get her attention. I mean, I couldn't. And they do stupid stuff like propping the doors open and leaving the doors open for 20, 30, 40 minutes, morning, night, and even in midday when they were doing, it was just awful. And we finally got rid of her. She retired. But anyway, she would never get the focus. She would never get a student. One of the things you got to do is get students teams involved. You got to have a staff member, a teacher leader that's willing to do that. And that takes a little time. You got to have somebody that's passionate. Well, she would never care about that. What she would do is assign the newest teacher coming into school. They would get that assignment, and they didn't want to do it. So they never got anything done. It was awful. But now we got a new principal, and gosh almighty, he's really excited, and he's got a couple leaders now that are just doing wonderful work, and we're making really great progress. So I mean that's a good example where it took me about 4 years to get that school on board, but they finally got on board. And it was the last one to get Energy Star, the very last one. And now they're still the lowest. I'm not going to go back to the chart because but now the goal is get off the bottom. You guys have got the lowest ranking. It's like 82 now, but get off. Don't be the lowest one in the district. I mean, you got to get off the bottom, and they're motivated to do that. My granddaughter's on the energy team. She's a 5th grader now, and she's so excited about this, and they've got the students engaged, and they really do a great job policing the school. I mean, if there's lights left on or doors left open, it'll get fixed real quick. And they know they have the principal support. That's the difference now they didn't have before. So that's key. But you got to get the faculty and staff on board, but you got to get the students engaged and educated. I think it's important to provide weekly and monthly reports, and you got to do some competition there. Let them compete against themselves, but also let them compete against each other. You need to identify some energy conservation measures. You start with the low-hanging fruit, and you try to do things and show them that it works. And we've done that. I mean, basically, we've converted all of our metal halides now in our gyms to LEDs. We've converted all of our outside parking lots to LEDs. We're starting to convert a lot of the troffers into LEDs. We're doing those kind of things that make sense and are good paybacks, not just for the energy, but for the maintenance. It's, I think you're absolutely right. It's not just how much you're going to save. We save $4.5 million, but I tell you the biggest accomplishment, in my opinion, and I tell people this, it's the improved environment for the students. I mean, gosh almighty, it's so much better. The lighting is so much better. The comfort level is so much better. The test scores are so much better. The school that had the lowest rating when we started, the principal got motivated because her peers got on her so much. They sent her emails, hey, you're not supposed to be the lowest on this thing. And so she really got motivated. She called and said, Jim, we got to do something. And so I went and met with her, and we talked and we strategized. And she got a teacher leader that I knew that was going to be passionate about it, and got a student team, and they really got good. But the nice thing, After that happened, within a couple of years, her test scores start rising. And now for 3 years running, that school has got the highest test scores in the district, which is exciting, And I think it's not all because they did energy, but to get the students engaged is what helps. It really motivates students to be successful. And then you got to implement. You can't just identify the daggone ECM, but you got to implement. Now, like I said before, it's very, very difficult to get money in any school district. It really is. Okay, but if you can get one started, and then you use the rebates and use that to get the next project going. For a while, I didn't get our CFO. I could get all my CFOs in all my other districts. There was no problem. They let me use all the rebate money. It's not a problem. But my home district, for whatever reason, you don't have the respect in your home district that you do in other districts. You go in other districts, you're kind of consultant. You're an outsider. You come in and they listen to it. Well, my home district, not that they don't respect me, but we've heard you before. This is all. But I finally got him to agree that any money we get in from rebates goes back into energy projects. So we got that happen a couple of years ago. He's retired, but I've already got with a new CFO, and she's on board. She's going to do the same thing. I've got that in writing. So I'm good. But you got to implement those ECMs. You can't just let the money lay. You got to reinvest money, keep investing money, and keep improving. And then you got to recognize achievements. One of the things we do is we have a contest every month. And we've been doing this since November 2009. And the school that has the biggest reduction in that month, they get a banner. Okay, it's a pretty nice banner. It's it's about 6 foot high. It's green. And so we get the students and that's on the inner team and the teacher leader and the principal and the custodians and everybody involved. We take a photograph, put it on the webpage, and they don't get any money. It's just pride. It's just we're number one, and it's amazing. Because see, as assistant director of maintenance, I'm not doing that anymore because I'm working all these other districts. But up until the last year or two, all the head custodians reported to me. I mean, I had all of them. So that was kind of a thing of pride for them. And it still is. They compete against one another. Who's going to get the banner this month? And that's important. Competition is so important. It's such a motivator. But you got to recognize those achievements. Some other districts that I've worked with: Estill County, Franklin County, Henry County. There's no use. I can show you data on all these, but it's kind of the same stuff. This is a good example. Anchorage and Emnitz are really small districts. They don't have one school, so it's hard to get competition going. So what I did is competition between the districts, and then you get similar things. I think I'm done. Ready for questions?